That's part of this
Did
show,
we
always during the break.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Did we almost forget to go on air?
I forgot your theme song, so I'll have to look.
That's what threw me off.
I may have to find a new one.
What's this
I'm a little-
poster?
That's all right. I got to give a shout out to the Jackson Y and the instructors there. I did a class yesterday called Crossburn, Sunday at 12:30. Kelly is the instructor. This guy is one of the buffest guys I've ever met. But this class is absolute killer. But they have so many good classes out there between spinning, kickboxing, TRX, Crossburn. I'm really impressed with the Jackson Y. Anyway.
Yeah,
Shout out to all the
They do it right
instructors and
Who's
people
Kelly?
that I know there. Kelly, Kelly's just I don't know his last name. He does TRX, which is a grueling class, and he does this Crossburn, which is a grueling class. You got spinning instructors, Bonnie, Laura Levy, this Megan who's new, who's cute as a button, and Dynamo. I mean, I could continue names, Shauna, Malin, Michelle Woods, all these people who are just terrific instructors. I can't say enough about them. Anyway,
Okay.
shout out to the Starbucks guys this morning, just to the Jackson Y people.
Well, it's too late when you just said that. They got a shout out.
Yeah, you're right.
Hey, who are the two people that said that they watch our radio show?
Teddy and Doug.
Oh, that's who it is. God, so Bill wasn't even part of it. So I give a shout out to Teddy Austin, my favorite son, and Doug Jones, because they watch our radio show.
Oh, good.
I said, so you're the two of you.
Do they watch it live? That'd be a real treasure.
Well, that would be a revelation.
Yes,
There you go.
indeed. Okay. All right. So what are the? I gave you something to talk about today, but you said you had several items. What are they?
Okay, so there's an assumption out there that it's best to contact the listing agent because they're already familiar with the property. True or false?
False.
Why?
Because you need somebody representing you. You want a buyer's agent to represent you to protect your interests. The listing agent is protecting the owner's interest, the seller's interest. That's the absolute worst thing you can do as a buyer. Is that what they're recommending?
No, that's a myth. These are common myths and misunderstandings about buying property.
Yeah, and thinking you're going to get a better deal by contacting the listing agent is absolutely false. The listing agent is going to get paid.
That wasn't the
commission,
question,
but-
was it?
Yeah.
You get a better deal?
That's a
That's a
myth.
myth.
Oh.
The myth
The
is
listing agent
she's-
is more familiar with the
She's
property.
reading an article that says common myths and misunderstandings about shopping for homes. And it is an absolute myth that you will get a better deal by contacting a listing agent or listing broker.
And a lot of people will call whoever's name is on the yard sign.
Yeah.
And often they're in a large company, if you've got a lot of new agents that are being hired in, they'll, a more experienced agent will let them put their name, a newer agent's name on the sign. So it's, a lot of times, the agent's name on the sign may not necessarily be the person who actually has the listing on the property. It's just to get that agent some business as a new agent.
Yeah, but more,
Following me?
Yeah, but more
But won't you-
importantly, go ahead. Sorry.
Won't you eventually get the person that is listing the property?
If you call on the sign?
Not
No,
necessarily.
No?
No, actually,
I don't understand that.
I just sold a
You'll get to the
closed-up-
person on the floor most often. Whoever's covering the floor gets, because they're spending the time in the office, they get to field that call. So you call the office, let's suppose it's I won't name a name here, I call ABC Realty on a sign, I get whoever is covering the phones or the floor on that particular Saturday morning. That person now is gonna get the selling portion of the commission. People don't understand the way this works.
They'll get the business?
They'll get the sell. There are two parts to every real estate deal. There's the listing side and there's the selling side. When you call and you get somebody on the floor, that agent who is now having to spend the time in the office when they'd rather be doing other things, that person who takes the call now gets the selling side, and they will end up dealing with the listing agent in the same office. The problem is that selling agent typically, unless the buyer knows what they're doing, that selling agent is still an agent for the seller. So as a buyer, the best thing I can do is hire my own buyer's agent to represent me in connection with finding, looking at, properties and negotiating for the purchase. You agree?
Yeah, because the seller's agent is hired by the seller
Right.
to get the highest price, to market that property and to get the highest price possible
Highest price and best terms.
Yeah,
for the seller,
yeah.
not the lowest price for the buyer.
And as a buyer,
I've got that one.
Okay.
I got that one figured out.
Right.
so when I call on a sign, I don't have anybody representing me as a buyer. I'm calling on a sign. I'm calling the person who is negotiating on behalf of the seller. And to think that I, as a buyer, have the appropriate or necessary expertise to negotiate that deal with the listing broker or agent, I'm absolutely nuts. I want somebody on my side who's been around, who knows the business, who can act as a buyer's agent, representing me, has a fiduciary duty to me to represent my best interests. But
Okay.
who's also knowledgeable. I mean, I don't want some rummy as my buyer's agent. I want to investigate, find out who's got the qualifications to act as a qualified buyer's agent. And it's not going to cost me anything, because when I said that that deal split into two sides, the listing side and the selling side, let's suppose the commission is being paid is 7% by the seller. If the buyer calls the listing agent, that 7% is still going to get paid by the seller to the listing agent. It's a 7% commission under the listing agreement. What happens is when you have a buyer's agent, the buyer's agent will come in, and on the MLS, the property is advertised to all of the other realtors on the MLS, I'll pay you a 3.5% commission. And so now, 7% still gets paid by the seller to the listing office. Now, instead of keeping 7%, the listing office is the one that pays 3.5% to the buyer's agent. So, buyer's agent rarely has to pay anything for the buyer, for the agent. Buyer rarely has to pay anything for the buyer's agent. Buyer has representation.
So essentially, it's just split.
Yeah, it's split. The only difference is who's getting the selling side. Is it going to be another agent for the seller, a sub-agent for the seller, or is it going to be a buyer's agent? As a buyer, I want it to be a buyer's agent. I want somebody on my side. And as I say, the seller's paying for that representation.
Okay, so for the second myth,
But you all agree, you agree with
I-
everything I just said?
I have one question.
absolutely.
So Joe Blow is on the sign. You call Joe Blow Saturday, and he's out of town or out in a snowmobile somewhere, and somebody else answers the call, they get the
They-
business.
They get the lead.
Even if Joe Blow is there, they get the lead and they will act as the selling agent because
So
they
that
were
means
there.
nothing.
Well, if they're in the same office.
I mean, if
Could
you ask
depend
for the
on-
guy,
if you
Well,
ask
if you ask
the-
for the guy and they don't give it to him, then it's kind of
that's
dishonest, so.
yeah.
okay.
But
All right.
But if it's an office which is a dual agency office or a designated agency office, not a dual agent, designated agency office, then the person who answers the phone, I can, as a buyer, I can say, okay, you're in the same office. Are you a designated agency office? If
But,
they
you know,
say
the general public doesn't know that too.
right, what'll happen is the agent, if the office is not a designated agency office, you're in the wrong place to start with. If the office is a designated agency office, the agent with whom that buyer is dealing has an obligation to give the buyer an agency disclosure form. This is state law. The agency disclosure form explains the different forms of agency. So at that point, the buyer can ask the person who answered the phone that they're now dealing with, okay, I want you to be my buyer's agent. The problem with that formula is that I don't get to go out and search for my buyer's agent. I'm taking whoever it was that answered the phone. That person may be a rookie with no real experience to assist me in negotiating, particularly if it's a rookie in an office where the listing agent is an experienced agent, can just run roughshod over that rookie. Comment?
No, I think that's absolutely right.
You know, it's always nice when a wife agrees with a husband.
As rare as it is.
Yeah, it's exceedingly rare, and I have to.
And now
I'm
it's
gonna
on
have to
tape.
have this carried over into other aspects of our married life.
There you go.
And that's on
Do you think
tape, though.
do you think I'll be successful in
No.
that endeavor?
No.
Nope.
Not in the least. This morning she even had an "I told you so" moment. I don't even remember what it
It
was.
had to do with the Ann Arbor.
Yeah, the property in Ann Arbor. Yeah, it was. I said, okay, so this is an "I told you so" moment, right? She said, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but I did clarify that and say you weren't the one who
Right,
I was saying I told
but it
you
was
so.
still, yeah.
You just happened to be
You were
sitting
just
there.
expressing that.
Right.
Sentiment, right.
Okay,
All right, what's the next myth?
all right, the myth is I'll save money on commission if I work with the seller's agent. You kind of touched on that.
That's the same issue.
Yeah, but the commission is already predetermined in a listing contract how that commission that the seller's paying is going to be split between the listing agent and the seller's agent.
Is it always just split?
It could be split however the listing agent and the seller determine best to split it. Sometimes the listing agent will get little bit less than a buyer's agent.
No, almost never. No, most listing offices. Let me give you an example, and I want to emphasize this isn't without. This is without any intention of saying this is what the commission structure is in a particular
So you're
community.
not trying to.
So I don't want to violate antitrust in any way. Okay? But for purely academic purposes, if the commission is 7% being paid by the seller to the listing broker, there are many listing brokers who will advertise on the MLS that they will pay 3% to a cooperating agent. In other words, if I've got 1,000 agents in the MLS, I hire one as my listing agent. That listing agent puts the property on the MLS and advertises it to 999 more agents. Who's more apt to sell that property? The one agent versus somebody in that pool of 999. Someone in the pool of 999. So when a listing, if I'm a seller and the listing office says, okay, you're going to pay me 7%, but we're only going to pay one at 999, 3%, I'm going to look at the listing agent, I'm going to say, wait a second, don't you have it backwards? Okay? In other words, why don't you keep 3% and give 4% to a cooperating agent, because that additional percent will encourage the 999 agents out there to be more apt to look at this particular property. They've got a percent advantage in looking at this property.
I would think they want to make more money.
Well, sure they want to make more money, but
The
as a
buyer's
seller,
agent or the listing agent?
the listing
The,
agent.
listing agent.
Yeah, of course they want to make more money, but the point is, do we want to sell a property? I'm a
depends on-
seller, I want to sell
Oh,
the property.
It may
You're
depend on
putting
the
it out
market.
there that you're going to give them 3%.
Yeah, but it.
Yeah,
Right?
but if everybody else is offering 3% on properties, when I put it out there at 4%, what's that going to do?
Okay, well,
Gonna
I mean, there
create-
are
it's
some
gonna
agents
create
out there
additional
that
incentive.
really focus on how much money they're gonna get.
well,
There are
that's their
agents.
job, right?
Well,
No, their job is to, as a listing agent, to sell the house at the highest price in the quickest time at the best terms for the seller. And their job as a buyer's agent is to find the right house at the best price on the terms that works best for the buyers.
But I think they probably all kind of run together.
They don't even come close to running together. You're gonna be kidding me.
Yeah.
No,
No, I
come
would
on.
not
I'm a
be-
seller, I'm a buyer. I'm on opposite ends
If
of the
I'm
negotiating
as an
table.
agent, just strictly looking at what
No,
I'm
I'm just
gonna
talking about
walk.
one agent.
Oh, yeah, that agent.
You can't tell me they're not looking out for themselves.
No,
hope not.
no. I
Huh?
think I think most agents have the best interests of the. They understand that the law requires, as a fiduciary for the seller, I've got to look out for the interests of the seller. If I'm a listing agent and I'm representing a seller, I don't represent the buyer. I mean, I don't. I can't represent the buyer.
Right.
I mean, I
Yep.
two examples this weekend. I got a call from a commercial, regarding a commercial property. The seller wanted, to talk to me, and I actually referred him to two of my competitors. And then I also went and looked at another house for a listing, and I went back to the person who referred it to me and said, you would be best to do this with that property. And I could have taken both of those opportunities to earn money for myself. However, that wasn't in the best interest of the people who have called me.
And there is a principle or a term in our law, which is now statutorily recognized in Michigan and in many other states, called dual agency, where I purport to represent both parties to the transaction. But when one looks at the statute and what the case law says about being a dual agent essentially means I'm not representing the interests of either party. I can't negotiate on behalf of either party. I'm acting essentially as what we call a scrivener, somebody who's putting documents together, but I can't you think about it, how could I represent both sides to the deal? It's like a lawyer representing both sides in a divorce, or a
Right.
lawyer representing both sides. That's an immediate conflict of interest. The law allows it, but it does limit what the
Of course,
relationship
I
is.
use that as an example when I'm talking about that. And then when I divorced my first husband, we had the same attorney, and that attorney did a great job.
And what are you gonna do in your second divorce?
Well, I'm gonna get a bulldog, I can tell you that. I think I've already got the number on speed dial.
Do you?
Who would you use? No.
I know some people. I wasn't thinking in terms of a lawyer.
Okay, so, and actually when a buyer, more importantly, if they approach the listing agent, they potentially lost the vital opportunity to receive loyalty, confidentiality, and other fiduciary duties.
Sure. What's
that are owed
your
to them.
third myth?
Third myth, all real estate agents are basically the same, so I might as well contact this one.
Har har yar har har. Okay.
That
Just
would
like
be a
any
myth.
other profession.
That would be a myth.
Yeah, that is, I mean, that's just like saying that, I mean, this is a true statement. Bill Schlechte is the best real estate attorney in the state of Michigan.
Yikes.
That is a true statement.
Well,
And I would say
how can that be
even-
true?
How can I live up to that
It is true,
accolade?
because he's good at what he does.
Well, okay.
I mean, because he's educated, he's taken special training, he focuses on real estate. He's done it for how many years now? 42?
43.
Wow.
43
Incredible.
years.
Plus, I teach it to lawyers,
He teaches it.
bankers,
I mean, it
and
isn't-
brokers, and
It's not a part-time job for him. He doesn't do all the other things.
But that is your opinion.
you know, she's one of the brightest, most intelligent, most common sense persons I've ever met.
He's got
in
the
my life.
reputation for being one of the best real estate attorneys in the state of Michigan.
I-
By all,
I
I
have
mean,
no doubt
yeah.
about that.
just go ask
You're a
most
very
commercial-
intelligent, perspicacious individual as well, Mr. O'Connor.
He has high standards. I mean, he'll,
But again,
Of course, look
it's-
at my wife.
that's your opinion.
it
So,
is opinion
it's the
based
same thing with
on,
a real estate
No,
agent.
it's not.
It's
No,
opinion based on
go look at
evidence.
qualifications. I have a hearing on Thursday.
Well, I understand that.
Okay. But I mean,
as a
but
realtor-
these are objective criteria. You can look, what's the experience that someone has? Not just in terms of length of time, but do they specialize in this kind of property? Do they know this particular community? What kind of research are they capable of doing? What resources do they have at their fingertips?
what
I mean, these are-
education do
these
they
are-
have behind them? How
what
long have they
education?
been in business? I
These-
mean, as a buyer,
These are objective criteria.
look for a
Does
buyer.
that still make them good?
No, but
Okay.
it makes them, it could make them
It
better.
certainly is a one way in which you can objectively
Right.
search for a qualified
Reputation.
individual, and then meet with them. Do you hit it off with them? Do they just talk a good game, or can they actually walk or play the good game?
Well, I'm sure you know many that
And
can
referrals
talk
too.
a good game.
Well, but
Yes, I do.
referrals
And I've
too.
met 'em all over.
I
Well,
always-
that's the whole thing.
I
I
always
would
tell
have
people-
to talk to somebody that's used this person.
I do that with people.
How
that-
did they do?
That contact me and ask, how did you get referred to me? It's not uncommon for people who are referred to me to say, I was actually referred by 2 different people, or 2 or 3 different people. I asked around, your name kept coming up. And if somebody calls me and I say, they're questioning what my qualifications are, I say, hey, talk to this people, talk to this judge, talk to this lawyer, whatever it may be. I want you to understand that this is in fact something that I do.
Usually, he'll get, if he's got a case, often when the case is done, the person on the other side will hire him because they were so impressed.
That happens
All the
fairly
time.
frequently. But
Doesn't
I'll just give you an
advertise.
example. I've got a meeting set after a hearing in Washington County on Thursday with a new client who contacted me, was referred by 2 different realtors over in the Detroit area, totally unrelated, regarding a particularly arcane or difficult issue. And so
But as a
I said,
realtor-
hey, look, here's my expertise in this. These are the cases that I've handled involving this particular.
But as a realtor, you could look for someone who has an accredited buyer's representation designation. That means they've taken classes and they stay up on it, specializing in representing buyers. Okay, so we have to move on, because he's
Well,
got to
we
get
can
to
continue
the
this
next.
conversation
Yeah.
on agency, et cetera, because it's a fairly complicated one. And we can.
Anything you talk about
I
could
have
become
some more
complicated.
questions about realtors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And
All right. Are they
let's-
things you're going to ask me off air?
No.
Okay. All right, I
I'm
have a
surprised
new
you-
listing. Okay. Save that for next
put
week.
her on the spot.
I listed 2 lots on Mulligan Drive, which overlooked Fairway 7 of the marsh from the Country Club's golf courses. And 2 lots, 13 and 14, together are $30,000. That's a steal. 3310 West Morale, it's down to 149.9. It's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. I mean, great location because it's it's east of Robinson Road.
It's
So
right
it's-
out near Robinson, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really close to everything. It's over 1,400 square feet, but the cool thing is it sits on, I think, about 4+ acres.
It's up on a hill, isn't it? A little bit.
Little bit. And then one of my favorite properties is 2654 Virginia Court. That is a cream puff. There is nothing that has to be done to that house. It is a 1-bedroom, it's over 800 square feet, 139.9, and it's got beautiful lake access to Clark Lake. And then vacant land, I think it's 40 acres on Spring Arbor Road, 30 or 40 acres. I'm sorry, I don't have the number right offhand, but it's just under 300,000. And it's got some outbuildings. And then 3128 Lori Drive is a Western School District house at 124.9, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, almost 1,300 square feet. Very, very nice house. So
Call Laura if you're interested.
780-3800.